Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton from the Reiki Center. So I was going to do a video on Vipassana and Reiki because I've had a few people over the past ask me about this because they'll go on a Vipassana meditation retreat. So that's the 10-day retreats that are held. And they are told that they are not allowed to do Reiki, or they'll do the questionnaire and they kind of have to lie about it to get in, because if you say you're doing Reiki, they won't let you into the course in the first place. So people will ask me about this, and it's always caused me a bit of confusion because I don't know why you would make a rule like that. So I've had a look at it. Now, hands up, I have never done a Vipassana retreat. Having done the research that I've now done, I will never be doing one, frankly. Just sounds like a cult to me. Sorry, I just have to say it. I've been on many silent retreats, and the thing about silent retreats is they can be very challenging. And particularly if you're a beginner, and a lot of people going on Vipassana for the first time have probably never done much of a meditation practice, or certainly not a 10-day retreat if they've even done a 1-day retreat. And looking at the stuff on their website, it's like you start the day at 4, you finish at 9, you stop eating at midday. Now, I don't know if it's still like this or if it's only like this in some particular areas, but just reading about it just sounds really dodgy to me. So I wanted to start off like defending Reiki, but now I'm like, I don't even know if I need to defend Reiki because this just looks nuts to me. So use your discernment, people. When I tried to do the research in terms of why they said no to Reiki, it seems to come down to a couple of Reiki masters who had a psychotic incident. And then they went, oh, it's the Reiki rather than the Vipassana. Because since then, the more I researched, the more I realized that psychotic breaks and suicide attempts and depression and panic attacks and all kinds of mental health issues seem to be much more common at the end of a 10-day Vipassana retreat than after a Reiki 1 class. So just putting it out there, I think if anything is unsafe, it would be practicing Vipassana with no real guidance and no real, I mean, I don't know. I was reading through it and there are things like, let me get this up. Acceptance of the teacher and the technique. This is from the dharma.org website about their code of discipline. So the teachers must declare, students must declare themselves willing to comply fully and for the duration of the course with the teacher's guidance and instructions. That is to observe the discipline and to meditate exactly as the teacher asks without ignoring any part of the instructions nor adding anything to them. This acceptance should be one of discrimination and understanding, not blind submission. So on the one hand, they've said you must comply fully with the instructions, but then they kind of put a little waiver in saying, you should discriminate. So what is it? Are you discriminating, or are you declaring yourself willing to comply fully? Because these are two contradictory things. Then at the top of it as well, the student will have to stay for the entire period of the course. The student will have to stay for the entire period of the course. And this is a course that lasts 10 days of full meditation from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. And you have to say, now, I'm sorry, but I've done a lot of silent meditations and retreats. It's always up to you. The invitation is there to do the full thing, and there is a program, but you can leave at any point, and people do. I see people leaving all the time because they either realize it is a lot more challenging or harder than they thought, or it just doesn't suit them. Like, meditation doesn't suit everybody. It's a very deep dive into your nothingness. And for some people, it brings up a lot of trauma. And for other people, it brings up a lot of anxiety. And so meditation is not this, it's not a kind of coverall for everything. It's not it's not like Reiki. Like Reiki is a balancing of your life force with the universal life force, right? It's a balancing, it's a harmonizing. Meditation is a deep dive into nothing but your inner world. And for some of us, our inner world is quite out of balance. So when you observe that and you observe how out of balance it is, like if you're not allowed to use Reiki to help you with some kind of healing, then you're just left with your demons, essentially. Now, this isn't to scare people off. I'm a big fan of meditation as well, but I am a big fan of moderation and doing things at your own pace and keeping your own self empowered sensibility around what's going on. So the idea of blindly following a teacher or blindly following instructions for a full 10 days with no distractions, because you're not allowed to practice anything. You're not allowed to sing and dance, it says. You're not allowed to really move, do exercise, do yoga. It's like you're not allowed to do any of this stuff. You just sit with yourself and your thoughts. Hmm. So a lot of the rhetoric around Vipassana, what I can see about it is that they think that Reiki is somehow like a force, a contradictory force. Okay, so according to AI, right? Google AI. Vipassana, meditation, and Reiki both offer benefits. Okay, that's nice. But are considered incompatible by Vipassana practitioners due to the differing approaches to self-awareness and healing. So Vipassana focuses on direct observation of the mind and body, aiming for equanimity and self-reliance. Reiki is an energy healing practice that involves directing energy to promote healing. So this is something that comes up a lot, right? Like a Reiki practitioner is pushing energy into somebody else or pushing energy into themselves. Now, okay, so if you practice Vipassana, what has that got to do with your day job? If that's what they're saying, like you shouldn't be a Reiki practitioner because you're pushing energy into somebody else. So that means I shouldn't be doing any kind of manipulative work. So surely being a doctor or an acupuncturist or a lawyer or a marketeer or in advertising, I mean, like what you're pushing energy around all the time. So are they saying that I shouldn't be doing that? And Vipassana is all about self-reflection. So therefore, that's all I'm allowed to do, self-reflection. But that just makes no sense at all. If they're saying that I shouldn't be doing Reiki during the Vipassana retreat because Reiki is somehow manipulating energy, again, I would say and I've said this in a lot of videos, I'm not going to repeat myself over and over. Well, I probably will, but I'd rather not. The manipulation of energy that people think Reiki is doing is just not really the way it is always used. Now, I totally understand some people do use it for intention setting and, Reiki levels 2, we're using the symbols, we're kind of pushing energy here, we're pushing energy there, we're inviting the energy to move in different arenas. It is true, we are often doing that kind of work for healing and balance. Like once you realize, like let's say you're in a deep state of meditation and you're observing what's going on and you notice that there is a lot of very intrusive thinking or very like a lot of shadow work. So there's a deep sense of unworthiness, or there's areas in your life that you are holding a lot of guilt or a lot of pain or trauma, then why wouldn't you want to do healing around that? Like how is that going to go against your own balance? Right? Unless you are saying that when you observe all that is, then there should be no impulse to heal it. Now, that no impulse to heal it is also a manipulation of energy, because you're manipulating away from the natural response of the body to heal itself. Like if you look at organisms, if you put a tiny little amoeba, a single-celled organism, into a petri dish and you put a little bit of poison or toxin in it, the amoeba, that tiny little single-celled organism, will move away from the toxin. We are biologically programmed to move away from what doesn't serve us and move towards what gives us more harmony, more feeling of balance, happiness, and away from pain. I mean, that's the biological system. So if you're saying that in your meditation, you should not move away from anything, you shouldn't go towards things, you shouldn't try and balance things out or harmonize things to give you a more balanced flow in life, then you are also going against the nature of things. So that's also a form of manipulation, right? In my mind, it is. I don't know. So I think there's a lot of unanswered questions here. And for you, when you are curious about Vipassana, or let's say you've done a retreat and you enjoy it, and there are certain things that you take from it, then by all means, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying use your discernment. So there's a lot of very alarming sentences to me in the description of the inconsistencies. So you're saying you follow the teacher, but you don't follow the teacher blindly. Okay, that's a fair thing. Like, listen to the advice as somebody who is perhaps more experienced than you, or knows what to do, but at the same time, keep your discernment, right? It's just the way it's worded, and the idea that you can't leave, and then you wonder why people have psychotic breaks. I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe they're just not wording it in a way that I can understand, but that would really alarm me if I went into a 10-day retreat knowing I'm not allowed to leave. I'm assuming they don't lock the doors and you can actually leave, but there's this idea that you have no say in that, means that in a sense you are like, in that commitment, you're almost pushing yourself into situations that you don't feel comfortable with. And honestly, that is the complete opposite of self-empowerment. Like, self-empowerment is going within and really observing. So if you're talking about observing what's really going on, which I also highly abide by, like, I think oftentimes when we drop into the sensations and the mindfulness and what's coming up for us, there can be a lot of insights. But then within those insights, there can also be an opportunity for healing those. Like, that is the shadow work, right? So when the stuff comes up, part of the shadow work is to accept it, to harmonize it. And again, yes, you could say the pushing and pulling on that energy, or trying to make something different than what it is not necessarily very productive. It's the balancing act of what wants to harmonize naturally, like the amoeba walking away from the toxin. Like, when you realize there are red flags in your life, then the next step is to walk away from those red flags. That's actually the doing of it, right? So there is a doing of it that happens, rather than the acceptance of, for example, abuse. So yeah, I think it's a very fine line that we need to always keep our discernment around. So when I read this stuff about Vipassana, and then I know in my heart what Reiki is about, I have a tendency now, instead of defending Reiki and going, yeah, why, Vipassana people are just misunderstanding Reiki, I feel more like saying, maybe have a bit more discernment before you lunge yourself headfirst into Vipassana in the first place, because it feels quite restrictive to me. Like, it feels like there's an awful lot of rules and regs and a lot of proclamations. So a little bit like what I was saying with the Satguru stuff as well. There's a lack of openness around self-discovery, right? And so if people are put into a very confined and unnatural 10 days of 10 hours staring at the wall, some people are going to crack under that pressure. And naturally so. Like, we're not built for that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing the prisoners get thrown into isolation as punishment for that. And again, I'm not saying that that's not right. Personally, I love silent retreats. I love the opportunity to sit quietly and for hours and hours just in a deep sense of stillness. But that's just me. Like, I enjoy that. If I started to notice a lot of very difficult emotions and thoughts and things that I hadn't processed yet coming up, like a lot of trauma, I would be moving towards getting therapy for that. So it's like, what's the right thing to do with what I'm experiencing right now? And just assuming that meditation, like 10 days of sitting for 10 hours, is going to fix all this stuff for you, is just dangerous. Like, it's not accurate either. Like, there is a reason why there's so many different modalities and therapies and things to help you, is so that you can discern which is the right modality or therapy or direction for you to go in at any given point in time. So I think that's the kind of number one overriding message. If you are being told by someone to give up something that you know in your heart is helpful, then I would be questioning that person, not questioning what you know in your heart to be helpful. So, stick with what you know and question what other people know about you, because I think that is where self-empowerment really, that's what it's all about, right? It's like my journey and my feelings and my process of getting there is unique and different to yours. Like, that is a given. So the whole idea of going into a modality that is very restrictive and saying you have to do it like this because this is the only way to do it is disregarding all the other people that have done it differently and succeeded, by the way. Like, it's not only one way to do it. There's lots of people that mix and match and find their way, and it's a little bit here and it's a little bit there, and it's what is coming up. So whatever's coming up for you is what, with a completely open mind, is what you're dealing with in that moment. So if it's PTSD, there's certain things you should be doing with that. If it's a deep sense of quietness and enjoyment, then there's that. And there's lots and lots of different parts of us that need to be attended to. And you can't just do it with one modality. It's not possible. We are very complex, energetic beings, and we have lots of different needs, and you can't just disregard them all. So that's my thoughts about that. It would seem that people that go on Vipassana have difficulty. And so then there are all these rules in place to try and mediate those difficulties, rather than look at the actual system itself and go, maybe there's a reason everyone's going into psychosis. Maybe we should look at that instead of blaming all the other modalities. Okay, enough from me. I don't know if that helped or not, but I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Bye.